Hi everyone, this is the podcast series of the Imperative magazine and my name is Tshidi Warapila. I am excited because this is one of the sections that is dedicated to books. Okay, we're not talking about books in the by the way, we're talking about the books as that very component or the key component of our podcast series. And those of you who've been with me on this journey, you know that the books literally transformed my life. There was a time where talking or expressing myself was just a mission. But after dwelling into books and teaching myself to read and to understand and to apply myself, I saw myself being opened up and transforming into the woman that I did not even understand that I will become. So here's to the book series, and today I am joined by Lorraine herself. And listen, I won't do injustice to her. I will just hand over and say, Lorraine, please introduce yourself, because sometimes we limit people in what we think they are in just a little, like Lorraine, reader, writer. No, so let's hand it over to you and you do the honor.
Thank you so much, Tshidi. And hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine Sithole, and I'm a reader. Mm-hmm. I have been reading for as long as I could read. Mm-hmm. And 9 years ago, next month, I started a book club called Bookworms Book Club. Mm-hmm. And it has been going strong for 9 years, and that has been the most fulfilling part of my journey. And over and above running the book club, I'm also a writer. I'm part of the Black Text collection and also dabble in a little bit of poetry. I was longlisted for the Sol Plaatje European Award in 2017. I also do a lot of work within the book industry. I am part of the organizing committee of the South African Book Fair. I have been involved in the French Hook Literary Festival. I am also involved in the Northern Cape Writers Festival. This will be my third year running. And reading has opened up a lot of opportunities for me. So I spend my time in and around books. So that is a job on its own.
That is a job on its own. So you're saying that you've been reading since you could read.
Yeah.
And when was that?
Oh, girl, it was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I've always been a reader. I mean, growing up, I grew up go Middlelands.
Okay.
With gogo and aunties and my uncle and my parents and my siblings. And, we were children by the chores, unlike our kids now, where you have to force them to wake up and do chores on a Saturday. They don't understand. So, and my granny used to work for white families, and she was also a ferocious reader.
Okay.
So we were exposed to books, to newspapers, and she subscribed to Reader's Digest. And those were the days when the post office was functional.
Yeah.
So I would wait for the postman to deliver the books, and then my granny would give me first dibs at her collection of Reader's Digest. I read, and I was always scolded for not finishing my chores on time
because
I would just dip into a book. And books they have brought immense joy to my life, and they have opened me up to so many opportunities which I think wouldn't have been possible had I not been a reader.
Wow. Lorraine, you're outlining a story that sounds not so familiar. Especially for me, I'm like, what? Did you read like that? Readathon where? Because I started reading when I was in my working years, right? Okay. And in me reading, it was literally out of the frustration of not speaking proper English and not being able to express myself in the boardroom. And how I was introduced to reading, it was through this beautiful woman that I still want to meet, Jenny Cruz Williams.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. So she would have, and I remember I used to switch off the radio every time when she was coming on because I found her too girly. But eventually, one day I listened, and I think it was a book session on that. And I had never been captured by someone like that, right? All my life I saw, reading is a waste of time. time. Reading is this. I promise you. Wow. And I'm one of the first people in my family who was reading and who have just transferred that gift of reading to my sisters older than me. And now I'm running a book club for my 3 boys at home, you know, because I see the value of reading and that. But I'm just so, you know, mesmerizing on how your family, you know, just groomed that reading and which is now beginning to demystify the stigma that Black people don't read. And because there you are as Lorraine, who've been reading and not finishing this because there was a book next to you.
Black people don't read is a lie because you know you can just see from the amount of books that have suddenly become available to us over the past 15 years, and also the new crop of writers. I mean, we're not only talking about authors who are published by traditional publishing houses. We're also talking about a large group of young Black male and female and kid authors who have come up, who have taken the bull by its horn and decided to give us these stories. I mean, they produce these stories themselves. They are not waiting to be approached by any publishing house for a manuscript, for you know, for to be commissioned for anything. They are betting on themselves. They are putting money where their mouths are. They are giving us the stories that we want to read. And that is the beauty about being exposed to books now. Because me growing up as a teenager, you know, when I was going through my formative years, I was not exposed to a lot of home-brewed Black literature. You know, I read a lot of E.M. Foster. I read a lot of European authors, but it didn't matter to me then, as long as I was reading. But then, as you mature in your reading, you also start thinking about things differently. Why are there no books written by Black women, for Black women, and then you start discovering, but then their books are out of print. And then if there are books written by Black people, for Black people, you know, it's academic book. It's academic books. It's PhD theses turned into books. And some of those books are not palatable to a leisure reader like myself. And then suddenly, I mean, you cannot, there are so many books to read. I wish there were more hours in a day to consume everything. But that is the beauty of what is happening now, that we will never, ever run out of material by us to read.
I am in such a panic that I have now started reading like 2 books at a time. And that has never happened to me because I always have new arrivals. I'm like, so there's something to read and something to do, and it's all good books and good literature, good stories, and the stories that you see yourself in, right?
Exactly. I mean, those are stories that I would have loved to read 15, 20 years ago. But then, you know, the situation was very different. We were in a very oppressive political dispensation. But then I look at what my children are reading now. I look at what my daughters have access to. And it just warms my heart. It really does.
And which brings us to this beautiful babe here. Hey? Black text. Doom. Beren or Ubuntu. And you are one of the contributors you know, to the book. But before we go into your chapter and the book itself, I want to know what made you say yes to writing or to contributing to this book.
Well, what made me say yes to the book was primarily that for the first time in years as a Black community, because if you go through the stories, you'll see that all the contributors are Black. The compiler, Mhlongo, is also Black. For the first time, this is not something that was only confined. This is something that we were bringing out in the open because, since the advent of the book, the conversations that are taking place on social media, that are taking place within our family structures, because for the first time they realize that, oh, man, we are really, really burdening the children. And moreover, as a parent myself, my kids are going to be young adults soon. It makes us start shifting our way of thinking instead of saying, hi, Mapaseka Obuhlali is going to be a doctor, will extend the house and buy the paving and do this. We start saying, hold on, this is my house.
Yeah.
This is not Mapaseka's responsibility.
Yeah.
And because inherently, I don't know where we get this, even though parents don't come out and say, you are going to be responsible for the household once you start working. We have that inherent thing to give back. Suddenly, lebota la mama without being asked, which is a good thing, but we really don't want our children, because this is also a turning point for us as parents. We don't want our children to think they are responsible for the things that we should have done, we could do for ourselves. So that is why I said yes to Nick, because I think it's very, very important for us to start talking about those things.
Yeah. So in your view, is it a burden, black text, or is it Ubuntu? Because I think that's what in all of the essays and in his opening and the Nick's opening and closure, it rounds around that, whether we see it as a burden or as the spirit of Ubuntu.
Hey, Tidi, it's not cut and dry like that, because if you are doing well, even if you're not doing well, as somebody who has been put through school by your parents, maybe an older sister had to give up a dream so that they can go work, go shop right, so that you can get books. You really, you can't come out and say it's a burden. But then conversely, salaries are not rising fast enough to beat inflation. You find that your salary does not go as long a way as relatives think. You are a CA, you are taking home 35,000. But then where do you stay in Joburg? You stay probably in Sandton to be closer to the big firms, and you need a car because you are a professional. You need a car. You need a 4x4 so that you can fill it with groceries.
Yeah.
So it also comes with societal pressures and family expectations. And at the end of the day, you find you are sending a bulk of your salary home, but then when now you urbalakadi noodles, girl. Urbalakadi noodles, and on Fridays, I know what young people are doing. I used to be young. I am still young.
Yeah.
But on Fridays, you want to go out with your friends.
Yeah.
And now it has to be. It's a juggle.
Yeah.
If you go out this Friday, drinks and those little foods, the platters that and petrol, it's probably 500 rands. Next
an
week,
outfit.
Monday. Outfit and hair and this and that.
Yeah.
So, people may say those are superficial things, but it's the reality of the city that we live in. You have to show the work that you are in. You can't be a CA and then
there's this joke that used to go around that this is what my family think I earn, this is what I get. So there's always that mismatch between what my family thinks I'm earning and what I'm really earning.
Yeah, it is so true, and it comes with so much guilt because when you look, we are not as privileged as our white counterparts. Even in 2020, we are not. So my kid who is in matric this year is not getting a car, but Van der Merwe's child is getting a car. So when they go into UCT or VETS, Kuabas has a car, Kabelo doesn't have a car, and then you start thinking really carefully around these things, you know, and it is true. There is a mismatch, and you can't really cut out. You can't cut family off. You can't stop sending money for Ma, because if you stop sending money for Ma, then Ma and your siblings and your relatives are going to starve. Conversely, Uma is telling everyone that you are flourishing in Joburg.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's still asking for salt, for a bowl of sugar. Go next door.
Yeah.
I think it's a very emotional topic, but I'm glad that we are beginning to unpack
To have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also what I like about the book is that there's no, and I don't think it was that expectation, right? There is no expectation for anyone to draw a conclusion around it, right? Because I felt like, okay, let me put my own disclaimer as TD. Before reading the book, I was like, why would people talk about black tax instead of helping people? What's wrong with helping people? That was my initial interpretation of it, and that's where I had a sort of a problem with it, because I thought, why are we even naming it something? You know. But I also understand that in the not naming, the mental concepts comes from naming. So you'll have to name something and then begin working at it, right? Yeah. And I wonder if, and then I started reading about it or on it, and then hearing other conversation about it, and taking myself as CD from the conversation, and seeing it from a bigger platform. And I appreciated that everyone, including you, in this, for example, in page 160, where you talk about when the education of your niece, had to be, when it was a challenge, you realized that it was going to be a group effort for the niece to go to school. And everyone talks about those stories or similarities, or when your father went to the mines, and all of those conversations coming together. And I'm thinking, okay, so maybe the black text that I initially saw as CD is not being said here in a negative, way. And I began to say, okay, let me be welcoming to the book and to the conversation, because my heart was just, what? Yeah.
I think it also has to do with the term black tax. It's got very negative connotations, because we associate tax with just the taking, and nothing being given back. But when you read all of the 26 stories, you realize that people gave without an expectation of return. But then what the giving did for the givers was, once you put your niece, your sister, your brother through school, at some point it comes to an end. They will have to get a job, and because they have gone through school and university, they are then in a better position to get a higher paying job, and then they should be taking care of the rest. But then there are in some stories where a sibling will finish, graduate, and then move out of the black tax circle.
Yeah.
And then you find that there are parents who are encouraging to that behavior. Molefe has been at school for 7 years. He's a doctor now. He must enjoy your money. But then you as Ntombizotwa, you are still expected to take care of the siblings that come after Molefe. So you have those little pressures and things and stories like that, which are really heartbreaking. But I think the most important conversation for us to have around black tax, when does it end?
Yeah.
We can't keep on giving in perpetuity, because it relates to structural problems. It relates to the economy is shrinking. There are no jobs. So as Lorraine, will I, in my 60s, still be expected to help out a grandniece, a niece, a grandchild, stuff like that? Because where we are sitting now in 2020, I'm very worried about the future of my kids. You know, will they be able to get those good jobs, and where are these jobs, you know, in 2025? Because you can't support children in perpetuity. They need to leave the budget. Give it to Santorini or something.
Yeah. And which leads me to the next conversation, Lorraine, or the next question, that are we beginning to see different shades of black tax? Hey, because to your earlier example, if Yaku has got a car and he's a first year student, and Kabelo does not have a car, but to someone's eyes, Kabelo is going to a university without having to queue for NFSAS or so those policies that you've saved or however you've saved, you are able to pay for that. So to Kabelo, that's a limitation for him to not have a car when his peers have got cars. But you have not been able to save for the car because you are saving for his education.
Yeah.
And instead of saving for the car, you had to take Lerato, Wasis Mapula, and Mamang. So are we beginning to see the different shades of black tax in our different so-called classes that we live in?
I think the important thing as parents, what we should teach our kids is, by us investing in others, it doesn't take away from the core. You know, if Kabelo can continue going to vets without having to queue for NSFAS, what was a car? You know, if she works hard enough and gets her degree, she'll be able to get her car, and then she can do better than me. So it's for us to continue the conversations with our children, because there are pressures out there. They also have pressures. You know, they are on social media, they are on Instagram, there's Forex, there's slay this, there's slay that. So girl, what's hard? So it's important to just keep the doors of communication open. And also, you know, if the kids are grounded, if the kids know where they come from, what their expectations are, and also what we are responsible for. You know, if Kabelo has a roof over her head and she goes to school and she's not wanting for anything, the rest is jam. I mean, you want a car, girl, finish your degree, get a job,
and then
buy a car.
Yeah. And I also like in your contribution the awareness that you bring, right? As you narrate in the story, there's a point where you're realizing the importance of getting a home for yourself and for your daughter.
Yeah.
And I know many people who've stayed long or longer than they would have desired in Bekoraye, however, because there was still just this line does not end, right?
Yeah.
The queue does not end.
Yeah.
And I want to be responsible and help out everyone. But there's that awareness that, CD, you now need to do this for your daughter, because the you've added another soul or a living being on this earth. As much as there's still a line, but I still need to do this.
Yeah. And I think that is, for me, that is where family structure comes in. Because as a mother now, where I am not encouraging my kids to leave home when they are not ready. But then if you come from an unstable family home, you know, those are the other pressures that add, and they add to you to wanting to leave home, because you don't want your daughter to grow up in that family environment. So again, as parents, it's imperative for us to build nurturing homes for our kids, so that, you know, when they do start working, property is expensive. Property is so expensive, and the salaries are not rising at all. So Abokabelo are really in a disadvantage, or when they do start working, they will not be able to afford to buy anything, and renting is such a waste of money. So as parents, we need to build balanced and nurturing and supportive family units, so that our children are not pressured into moving out as soon as they start working. But unfortunately, it's not a reality for most Black children.
Yeah. Wow. So, like you said, I'm grateful that we started the conversation. I feel like we've just opened a can with worms and roses and thorns and things like that, all in the same in the same can. But with such conversations, then they begin to be, there is an awareness, right? Because as you say, it's a structural. For me, it goes very structural, and we can all share our stories of black tax, where my mother had to leave home and come go to kitchening so that she can send money home. Literally sacrificed herself so that her siblings can be, right? And her ending up being a domestic worker. Then it also brings that, what do you call it? The other issues that I had to deal with as a girl child who was raised or who grew up without a mother being around, and yet she had to be that secret. You know what I mean? So is that conversation that we're bringing though with an understanding and the respect of, that's where people were at a certain stage. But for me, CD, then what does it mean? Do I mean that I have to, I see it as enabling her comfort in the state that she is now, because she had to live through her life without that comfort. So enabling it, whether I'll still call it black tax or not, I don't know.
It is ensuring that our parents who gave up so many of their dreams are comforted in their later years. But then this does not stop us from fighting this politically. Because this just needs a political situation. It needs a political situation for a radical economic transformation
in our time
is happening, so that all these obstacles can just, it's not going to be it's not going to happen overnight. But if we do the work from now, it means then my 5-year-old who is in grade R, by the time aliko matric, then he does not have to deal with all these obstacles.
And also with the real text of it, right? If the proper text was being used or channeled in the right systems, social grant, providing water, and some of the black tax will be, if I had to pay, I don't know, contribute 3,000 to my mother's monthly whatever, I could be giving her 1,000, but because there is that mismanagement of the government tax,
that's so true,
that is adding to the bucket and to what I could do, So here is to taking the conversation further and to bigger stages and allowing the cities to come to not have to deal with this.
That is the burden part of black tax of this collection, that the government has made it our responsibility, and it's not. It's not. If they fixed the hospitals, if they got proper teachers, then I wouldn't have to subsidize my sister's children to go into a Model C. And the school is good and the teaching is excellent, or my mother to go into a private GP for her vital statistics when she could just walk to the local clinic.
That's simple things like that. Or now having to add her on the medical aid, because the health system is just as pathetic as we all know it is. Listen, these conversations are important, and thank you so much for your contribution, and thank you so much for bringing the human side of the conversation to yourself and to all the contributors, because as I said, when I was hearing about it, for me it was like, these people now, they can speak English, they've named things, and they think but when you're reading it, from Fred Kumalo and everyone else, the real stories of what it meant or what it means to be a human being in this situation, is this, right?
Yeah, that is the absolute beauty of books, that you can see a title, read a story, and just think, too much English. But then once you start talking to real people about these conversations, these issues, then you get the human element behind the stories, because all stories, I mean, life imitates art. Stories don't come out of a vacuum. They come from a lived experience.
Yeah. Wow. Lorraine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we wish you well in your new project, right? Your publishing journey. Here is Lorraine moving from being this beautiful reader, writer, to
taking up space. Taking up space.
Hey, so and that's one of the projects that we would want to talk to you about later on when it's taking shape, and we can only wish you the best.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and how do we get hold of you?
I'm on social media, Lorraine Sithole. I have Facebook pages. I have one for the book club, Bookworms Book Club, and then I have my everyday Facebook page, and a one that I use for my book things.
Okay.
But all of
Lorraine
Sithole.
Okay, all right. So Lorraine Sithole, we'll see you on social media, and we'll see you soon on this beautiful podcast series of Imperative Magazine.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And to everyone, my name is Sidi Warapila, and I will definitely be seeing you soon. Cheers.